but the children can work spontaneously and use these subjects to develop themselves. Again, it's education as a means to development, right? And therefore education is a help to development. So it's not really to, anyway, and she is amazed, by the way, about what the children reveal, also these older children. Anyway, with all the experimentation that they do, with all the observations again that are made, that's when Montessori in the 30s starts to bring out her books called Psychoarithmetic, Psychogeometry. There's a Psychogrammar, which was not published at that time, which has only been published recently in Italian, but it was not published in the 30s. Anna Maria Macaroni starts bringing out written work under the title of psychomusic. So this is where we get this idea of psycho-subjects or psycho-disciplines as they've come to be known, right? But Montessori thinks of psychopedagogy. Now I think psychopedagogy is actually wider ranging than psychodisciplines. But what's interesting is this is far from cosmic education. Although that book, The Advanced Montessori Method, is very important, and Volume 2 is very important, and we use it to this day for our 6 to 12 courses, the subjects that are illustrated there are very limited compared to what we offer for cosmic education, right? But there's been a sufficient evolution of the approach that she can put psycho in front of language or grammar, psycho in front of arithmetic and so on, right? And so she's come to understand how you can offer these subject areas even to 3 to 6-year-olds, right? But you don't think of them particularly as subjects as such, right? Anyway, so we're in the 30s, and by now Montessori's in Spain. So this is the sort of Spanish period, if you like, which explains why those books are published in Spanish back in the 30s. They're not published in Italian. They're published in the 30s. They're published in Italian. Meantime, she herself tells us that the foundation stone of cosmic education was laid in London in 1935. So while she's focused on these psychodisciplines and how to take a subject apart so that you can offer certain aspects at a younger age and other aspects at an older age, she's also laying this foundation for cosmic education, right? And we don't reach cosmic education till the very end really of the 30s and the 40s. And by now we're in India, okay? Cosmic education really comes to fruition in this approach, really comes to fruition in India, in Madras, Kodai Canal is, of course, what we know as the Kodai Canal course, 1943-44, is the first Montessori course dedicated solely to these 6 to 12 children. Okay, but let me backtrack a bit now. The advanced method, all of the materials have to do with language, arithmetic, geometry, drawing, and music. Right. Then look at the psychodisciplines here. Let's look at what we have in the 30s. Yes, she's put psycho in front, but we still have the same subject areas: language, arithmetic, geometry, music. Right? Now, Mario Montessori, in a lecture that he gave in Bergamo, I didn't really introduce myself. Can I just do a little aside? You probably know, it was written and you heard, that I'm director of training, my 6 to 12 director of training in Bergamo, in Italy. Mario Montessori founded the Bergamo course, the Bergamo 6 to 12 course. That was in 1961, and we're doing our 64th course this year. Thank you. Anyway, in a lecture that Mario gave in Bergamo, he said the teachers were asking Montessori, Dr. Montessori, please do something for geography, please do something for biology, please do something for history. And her answer was, we have given the children the means to develop. They can teach themselves geography and biology and history, which is very interesting. So that's the reply to adults who are making their requests. And we understand later things change a lot, but that's their answer to the adults. Okay? So what is it that changes, that she does start to offer geography and so on? Well, first of all, one of the interesting evolutions of the approach for Children's House is that in the 30s, she does start to offer the globes, the puzzle maps, what we call as geography, hidden geography quote marks kind of thing in Children's House, which when I did the Children's House course, we were told never say geography, it's the word, but never use the word geography, okay? But of course, we could not use the word, but it is geography, even if it's in a highly concrete, sensorial form. All right, and the same thing for botany. Materials are being offered already in botany. So there are all these changes already going on in Children's House. What is it that transforms the psychopedagogy or psychodisciplines of the 30s to the cosmic education of the 40s? And this is where we really depend on Mario Montessori. Because all the developments in the 40s came so late in Montessori's life that yes, she did publish something. We can find things in print, but nowhere near to the same extent as what you can find in print for the earlier plane of development. And Mario Montessori worked so closely with Maria Montessori. He was the one with Maria Montessori all the time in India. Maria Montessori always had collaborators. She always worked with other people, also in the earlier years. But in India, it was Mario who was here with her. And this is where the two become indistinguishable in a certain sense. And we depended on Mario to be the one to promote their work, the work that they had done in India for cosmic education. All right? And so, the way Mario explains it is that, and he refers to the children in India, really, that what they both realized was that these Indian children, these 6 to 12-year-old Indian children that they were working with, had all these questions, but they didn't have the right answers a lot of the time. Or they made wrong statements about the world they're living in, okay? Because what's typical of this second plane is that the children are no longer focused only on using their senses and movement in order to explore the here and the now, which means the immediate environment, whether it's the human or the environment provided by nature. They've passed into a different plane. They're not just those children who are sensory motor explorers. Okay? The senses are still important, movement is still important, but now that's not enough. Given the interests that emerge in the second plane, senses and movement, whilst being terribly important, are not enough. And that explains why children could ask certain questions or make wrong statements. Another thing that becomes very, very clear is that their interest is no longer focused on the immediate environment, but their interest is expanded to the whole world. In fact, we could say to the whole universe or cosmos. Okay? Anyway, he gives examples of questions that were asked by children of this age here in India. Here's one. How do plants grow? They do not eat or drink. Now you can see there's a different kind of mind at work here. This is not the absorbent mind that's interested in incarnating everything around one, right? and developing at the expense of the environment, which always means the immediate environment, the here and now environment. Whether it's, in the unconscious absorbent mind stage or the conscious absorbent mind stage. No, this is a mind that's growing to be like ours, okay? That's a questioning mind, a mind that's starting to reason in a more abstract way. So, how do plants grow? They do not eat or drink, okay? That's something that we take very seriously in elementary, right? And we have materials that help the children to envisage that. That was not the kind of thing the younger children were interested in. When you think of the botany work that the children do in Children's House, it really has to do with understanding concepts in a sensorial way. The concepts that have to do with leaves, if we take the example of leaves, for example, since it's how the plants grow, they don't eat or drink. So let's take leaves, right? This crucial part of the plant. How are children interested in leaves at the younger age? Colour, of course. Colour, they know they're green. Of course, it's interesting too that we see many different greens. It's not that all plants have the same green at all. But anyway, green. So there's colour, size, shape, texture, smell, taste. They're interested, it's all from sensorial, it's all with the, with the senses and from a sensorial point of view. But look how their interests have changed now. From those kinds of concepts with a related language to how do plants grow, right? How is it possible that they grow? It's as though the children are saying, we grow by eating and drinking. We don't see the plants eating and drinking, so how is it possible that they're growing? Right, here's another one. How do butterflies eat? They have no teeth. I find these questions fascinating, actually. Why does winter come, which is so cold? It's like saying, why does the cold come? Now this again is very interesting because the children from the time they're born, depends on the parents of course, but can possibly experience the cold, right? They experience day and night, they experience the seasons, whatever seasons we have in our part of the world, okay, which can also mean more heat or more cold. They experience, if they're not always hidden away and covered up in sort of little bubbles, but if they can actually experience the world, they experience rain, they experience wind, but they experience it all sensorially. And what they learn about the wind has to do with how it feels, what it does to the leaves on the tree, what it does when it picks something up and blows it away. These are all very concrete sensorial experiences. But now, the children are asking questions which have to do with why, and which have to do with, well, we usually say the how and the why, right? So here it's about the cold. So there's cold, fine, we know that. But how come there's cold? But they could have said the same thing about anything. We've experienced the wind, we know the wind. But why is there wind? How come there's wind? Okay? Other question. So they're interested in understanding these phenomena that they've already experienced, but now they're interested in understanding the how and why of those phenomena they're actually familiar with. Another question, why are the plants green? Well, we know that connects with the food-making ability of the leaves. Another question, why do flowers have a perfume? What purpose does perfume serve the flower? Surely the flower's not making perfume to delight our noses. It must be serving some purpose for the actual plant. Another question, why does it rain? Where does the rain go? So just those questions start telling you that there's something going on psychologically and that we have to change approach, right? We can't keep the same approach as before. And then he also talks about statements that the children made. that were wrong. Okay? Like, for example, the sun is so small in comparison with the earth. This is also fascinating because any one of us looking up in the sky, looking at the sun looks small. You know, you look as though you can take it in your hands. If only you could be there. But the truth, the reality, is so far from that. The sun is so small in comparison with the earth. So your senses are telling you, yeah, the earth goes on and on and on, and then there's the sun in the sky that looks so small. But the reality is that the sun is 1,000,000 times bigger than the earth. The senses can't tell you that. So this vaster, bigger reality that these older children are interested in, they cannot answer for themselves. And they cannot answer just using their senses. Obviously not movement. Because then they would be able to do it. And the interesting thing is, it takes human beings, adults, a long time to come to have the knowledge that these children are actually seeking. But if you look at the history of human knowledge, it's amazing, you know, how long it took human beings to really understand the relationship between the sun and the earth, right? And so if the sun is 1,000,000 times bigger than the earth, and then you think, well, the sun doesn't only have the earth as a planet, the sun has a whole family of planets, right, that we call the solar system. And if you take the mass of the solar system and look at what percentage, we're looking hundreds now, what percentage of the solar system is actually taken up by the mass of the sun, it's 99.9 something percent of the whole solar system. If you were to round it up, we learn to round up or down our decimal numbers. If you were to round up, it's 100% of the solar system. And that's how huge it is, you know. And this is where the Montessori's did start to offer geography and biology and so on, and devise the materials that we now use as standard materials on our courses. They're really answering to these questions and statements that these children are making. The very first geography chart that we have, and we have something like 60 plus geography charts, around 60 geography charts, the very first one shows the children the relative sizes of the sun and the earth, right? To help the children to see, to picture in their minds, to imagine the actual reality of the relationship between the sun and the earth, right? Here's another wrong statement the children made. Man is as old as the earth because God created him at the same time. Well, I don't want to enter into a religious controversy, but all the evidence that we have is that human beings